Alright, hello. This is like the first tutorial I've ever done, so I don't know. I don't have anything significant I want to say. But yeah, I'm gonna show you how to animate a little cyberpunk city. So I have my footage right here. This is a still image just of the city itself, and here's a hold on. Here's a trimmed version of the animated footage where you can see kind of the signs and such moving, and that's what we want to transfer onto our still image here. Now there's kind of two ways that we can do it. One way that's pretty simple would be to just track this footage, because you see how the camera is kind of sliding to the left here. That's, makes it a little bit difficult to turn this into a still image. So what we could do is just crop in on the image a little bit and just kind of pan to the right just to cancel out that movement, so it would appear like it's just still, but I mean you'd lose a little bit of the edges on the outside with the movement, and that just cropping in and sliding doesn't teach you very many useful skills. So I'm gonna teach you the hard way to do it. Yay. So I'm in Premiere, not Premiere, this is After Effects. I'm stupid, but I dropped the two files in here in my project, and I'm going to start with a new composition, and I'm just going to call this Cyberpunk City, and I think the frames are 30. This is the North American version of 30 frames per second. I don't know why it's messed up like that. So start your new composition, and then that'll open it up down here. And then we'll drop both of our files on. We can play through. So the one on the top is the video, and the one on the bottom, if you disable the visibility of the top file, the bottom one will be just the still image that we're going to work off of. Alright, so let's trim this down to the same length as our composition. How do I do that? Oh, yeah. Alright, so you can trim it down there, and then trim comp to work area. Okay. Yep, so that'll have the start and end points be the same length as the video. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this video layer. We're going to duplicate it as many times as we want to make a little mask, because basically what we're trying to do is make a little mask around this ad, make a little mask around this ad, and then probably do one for up here, and then I kind of like these too, so I'll add those. So that's maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can duplicate one at a time, or you can duplicate all of them. And then I guess we can start left to right. Alright, so I'll just start with first moving billboard will be this one, Data Inc. or whatever it's called. So if you click on the layer, you hit enter, you'll be able to rename it. Just for ease of working, I'll just call that one Data Inc. And then from here, I'm going to go to the end where I can see all of the words and pull out my pen tool, making sure that this layer is selected still. I'll just make a little box around this. Yep. And then this layer is now isolated. We made that little box back here around the image, and then you'll see that the video will still play, but you'll only see the part inside that little box that we made, and that's called a mask. So because the camera slides and then this kind of moves outside of the little box, I'm gonna animate the box. Just do a simple little mask path animation. So you turn on this this stopwatch option that puts a keyframe down here where your first point is at the ending, and then as you move towards the beginning, you can shift this back over. Yeah, okay. So now the mask is moving through the scene. It just moved a little bit too far. Wait, no. Alright, okay. So back to... So we set the mask, we enabled the mask path keyframes, and then if you set the mask layer right here to none, then you'll be able to see the rest of the video without having to just guess where everything else is based on that little box that we had selected. So I'm going to fine-tune this real quick, and then from there make sure that this keyframe is set at the very end. Then I'm going to go to the beginning where I think it was. Where did it start? Right there. Okay. And then I'm just going to shift this over. Yeah, and see, now that we moved these points of the mask, it automatically added another keyframe. So that way, as the time progresses, you see the mask move along with the sign as the camera pans, which is pretty nice. I'll just move the keyframe to the beginning. Shouldn't change much. Okay. Alright, so that's working pretty well. But now let's try and put this on top of our picture layer. So we're going to go back to the mask and set it to add, so that, there we go. So now this is just showing the little layer that we selected. Okay, so we'll zoom out, and I'm going to need to kind of negate that movement that that mask is doing. So we'll start, gotta find the right spot where it is, where they both overlap pretty perfectly. Alright, so I think it's right over here. Nope, in the middle. That's pretty close. I'm just finding the right frame that was taken from this. Okay, it's right there. I'm going to see if I can I add a marker just to make it easier to remember? How do I add a marker? This is real pro tutorials here. There it is. Alright. I'll add a marker down here actually. Okay. So that little mark down there is where all the other videos frames will line up with it. So if we start here, we can actually move this whole layer horizontally using this option instead of just controlling the little mask, the shape of the mask, which is what we did to make sure it tracked the actual ad. We're gonna shift the whole video layer and have the whole thing kind of slide in the opposite direction from the camera movement. So we'll do that by setting, we'll just set a point here where the main marker is. I just realized that my camera is covering up the marker. There it is. Okay, a little marker right there. So we'll do that by setting position, key point right there. And then as we go back, I'll just zoom out now. That makes it easier for me. We'll kind of adjust the position lining to keep it lined up. That actually looks pretty freaking good. So just by selecting the layer and then going back to the beginning and sliding it a little over to the side, it will essentially look like it's stuck in place, even though this is trying to move one way but also being pushed the other way. It's interesting, but yeah. So this first part looks pretty good, and then at the end it kind of drifts off a little bit more. So I'll pull that back again. It's a little bit too far. Okay. Okay, that's a little bit too far the other way. That looks really good. Okay, so we just have this little section selected, and it's over this still image, and the mask is just tracked and following the movement of the camera and kind of canceling it out with that little slide adjustment that we added to the position using keyframes. So I'm pretty happy with that, actually. That went pretty well. Just a few quick adjustments to blend it all together. I'm going to go back to the masks, and then for mask feather, I'm going to set that to about 2. And what that does is basically, instead of having this hard line, the edge of the feather will have a couple of pixels kind of transparent, where it'll look kind of a little bit of a blur. I think you can see it right here most easily if I feather it out. Yeah, you'll see how the edges get fuzzier and more straight lined as I adjust it. The higher the number, the more fuzzy the edges are. The lower the number, it's just, look at that. It's not super, you know, nice to look at. So I'll bump it up to, actually, yeah, just leave it around 10. Okay. Sometimes you can play around with the overlay mask option, and that might do something, but in this case it looks like add is what we should leave it on. So that looks pretty good. I'm kind of bothered by this dark spot. I wonder if I can remove it with show me modes. Okay, yeah. Nope. You can play around with different modes, and that will kind of change how it looks. Oops. That's probably why I couldn't see it, because I had it disabled. Maybe subtract? That's not doing what I wanted it to. Let's do something else. Overlay that. Yeah, okay. That doesn't remove the bottom image. Just kind of covers it up and makes it look weird. Darken. I think just normal mode is fine. Don't worry about that. That was just a little side quest I was trying to figure out. So yep, that looks good. Happy with that. So let's just disable that to keep it out of the way. We finished this one. We just turned off the visibility. Now we're going to move on to we'll move on to this little guy over here. So we'll turn on this layer. Same thing we did with the first one. This one I'll call it. I'll rename this layer to Big Hex because it's a big hexagon in the sky. Alrighty, so I'll go to the end. I don't know why I go to the end. Just make a mask. You can either start from the beginning or start from the end, either one. This one, I'll just follow the shape. Leave a little bit of a room for the glow on the edges. Just tweak it a little bit, make it look nice. And right here, I'll just feather it right off the bat. Okay. Yeah, so you see this is where the picture says it is, and then this is where it is by the end of the video. So switch back to our main mouse, and then we've got the mask. We'll do the same thing. We'll turn on mask path. We'll turn on the keyframing for that. Make sure we have a keyframe at the end. Go to the beginning, and then just slide our mask over to where this is. So now it's tracking the whole thing, which looks good. We've got that little gap on the outside for the glow. 5 feathering might be a little bit high. I'll set it to 3. That's fine. Yep, same thing. Going back to our photo underneath, which is still visible. I've got the marker here, which is the point where it all lines up perfectly and looks like it belongs in the same picture. So we're going to work off that. I'm going to place a keyframe right there, and then go to the beginning, and then this one's actually pretty easy because it's got this line that we can just line up. So I'm going to switch over to the layer. Okay, hold on. I made a mistake. I put a keyframe in the wrong section. Okay, so for the mask path, we want a keyframe at the beginning and the end. And those are the only keyframes we need for that. And then for go to transform, that's where we want the keyframe. All right, we put the keyframe at the marker point, and now we go to the beginning, and not that value, this value. Okay, so we'll just line it up again. That looks almost perfect. How about 975? All right, right in the middle, 975.5. There we go. Nice. Nice. Now instead of panning, it's like locked in place perfectly. This one's actually pretty easy to track. Okay. Now this one, just bump you back right where you belong. 956.5. Alright, so this is just playing with the little values just until it feels good. Nope. going to be picky with this one. Nope. 956.5. Okay. Hello? What are you doing? I got the number wrong. Okay. 956.5. Alright. You wanna be that way? 0.3. Alright. Okay. I'm happy. That's good. Nice. Alright, so we got the first two done. Now we can turn on both layers and just look at the city here. Now we've got two of them animated over this picture, which is nice. You turn them off and that's how it looks, but this is just more fun. Look at that. This is going to be a dope wallpaper. Alright, so now we'll move on to this one, which I'll probably track the same thing just for this little guy. So I'll call this, I don't know, Baby Hex. That's fun. Okay, let's go. I'll start from the end this time, just so I can see the whole thing illuminated. I think that's why I've been doing that. So again, select your pen tool, make sure the layer's selected, and then draw a mask around it. Then I'll give it 2 points of feathering and set the mask path keyframe at the end, and then same thing for the beginning. Just switch to my main mouse and then shift over to here. That looks good. Alright, now we'll switch back to transform and go to our marker point of perfect placement and turn on a keyframe for that. Go back to the beginning, slide it over to line it up just right. That's just lovely. And then same thing for the ending, just put it back in its place. Alright. Woohoo. Alright, it does a little bit of sliding. So I think 976.5. 6.2. Okay. This is a little tiny one, so there's a little bit of movement maybe, but I'm fine with that. One switch that might help is turning on motion blur here. So all the layers with the motion blur switch set will have a little bit of blur with their motion. I don't know if it'll be noticeable, since the image moves so slowly, but yeah, another tip is to always save your project, so I'm going to save that one. Should have done this earlier. Cyberpunk wallpaper. Alright. There we go. Now looking at it, still image with 3 little cutouts. That looks nice. Cool. Alright. Same thing. Layer number 4. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we can kind of pair these two together. I might do that. I kind of want to capture this little billboard. I don't want all the detail to be stuck on this side. We've got these, but I'll just add in this little one just for extra touches. Alright, so same thing, go to the end, pen tool. This is tiny, so I'm going to zoom in way far. Clickety 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 click, and we got a mask. Alright, same thing, pretty tiny. We only need a little bit of feathering. Turn on the path and adjust the path. You can click up here or hit V to change your mouse back into just a regular old mouse, to do regular old mouse things. So yeah, there we go. There's the billboard. I'm actually going to shrink this a little bit so we don't have to worry about weird overlap things. So it's just the screen and a little bit of the glow. Okay, that looks good. Back to transform. Lock it down on our marker. Set the position. And then... okay. It's pretty good. Over here. You are moving too far. Oh yeah, the mask here is growing because when I moved the keyframe with this one, when I said, oh yeah, I'm going to shrink it, I shrunk it with this keyframe selected. So this keyframe over here didn't get shrunk, so that's why. It starts out small and then grows a little bit bigger. So you can just fix that by going to your second keyframe and just trimming it down to keep it small. Okay, there we go. There'll be a little bit of movement, but that's alright. Alright, this looks pretty good. It's a little baby thing. Forgot to rename it. Let's just call it baby thing. I don't know. I'm naming too many things baby. This will just be small. I'll call it tiny. Tiny billboard. There we go. Look at that. Now we've got 4 elements moving. It's just kind of, it's fun to see things come together like this. So now I'll start up here with these 3, these 2, this one, and then this one. I'll start with the pink billboard up top, pinkish purple. We'll do pink billboard. Okay. Same thing. Go to the end. Let's zoom in. Select our pen tool. We'll go here. I'll do a little bit of a curve to the mask. So if you click and hold and then drag to the side, you'll be able to make one of those curvy line masks, which is helpful for adding, you know, curves and rounded shapes. So I'm just going to give it a little bit of a curve because that's kind of how it wraps around this billboard. I'll feather it maybe 5. Okay, that's not bad. Same thing, select path, go to the beginning, and scoot the path over right about there. Okay. Now transform, go to our marker, and set position, back to the beginning. Okay, that one was pretty fast. That looks not too bad. I'm gonna look at this a little bit more closely here. So this is without, this is with. Okay. You can disable it, turn it back on. Ooh, I kind of want this to loop, so it ends right about here, it starts right about here. I think if we want it to loop perfectly, we'll go maybe here, and then we can just trim the composition to our work area. Actually, I'll just leave that for now. Let's just see if it'll play if I stop it right there. Did I just freaking nail that on my first try? What do you know? So I set the ending point a little bit earlier so that this just wraps around infinitely. That is pretty cool. It doesn't look like it interferes too much with these other light up elements. I think this is the most noticeable one that loops, so I'll make sure that that one's what we go by. Okay, happy with that. We can kind of just leave these extra tails on. We don't have to chop them off. Because when we export, it'll only export the stuff that's inside of our work area. So as long as we leave that little work area marker, that's the only thing that the computer will focus on. So I'm not going to spend other time figuring out all that other stuff. So this one, this is like a circly billboard. It's got a lot of circles. Okay, so we'll turn on this layer, same thing, get our pen. This one doesn't look like it has a whole lot of a curve, so I'm just gonna give it a square mask, like I've done always. And we'll feather this maybe 3, let's give it 5. Just because it's got that glow around it, and I kind of want it to keep that fuzzy warmth. Lock the path down, move back in time, and then line it up with Billboard again. Okay, so that movement is just what's playing on the billboard. Like the billboard itself is having a little bit of a pan on it, but the mask looks pretty good. And honestly, with something moving on the inside like that, tracking isn't a huge thing. So we're gonna lock the position during our special marker, line it up again, right there, right there. Alright, so this has got to move a little bit that way. Not that far that way. Maybe we don't need to move that at all. Oops. Okay. Yeah, we need to move it a little bit. So 959.5. Okay. So what's happening with this keyframe is that it like wiggles. It's not supposed to do this, but so for some reason I have it set here just to slide a little bit over this way. So you see it move this way and then like move back the other way. And that's just a weird setting that you have to change by going to Keyframe Interpolation. And then I think you set this to, set all of these to linear. Maybe this one, yeah. Alright, that fixed it, yeah. It's just a random problem you run into sometimes when you're masking and you have things move. Sometimes they just want to move on their own. Okay. That looks pretty good. Now we've got a still image with lots of moving elements. We've got one more to do. This one will be our, we're going to do 2 billboards in one. Turn on the layer, go to the end. Actually, we only really need to go to the end of this little thing, so pen tool, zoom, and just the screens themselves. Alright, almost done here. Give it a 3. Lock the path. Move back here. That follows the screens pretty well. Line it up with our background, and then transform it, position, and do one last little fix here. Yep. Oh, this one does the same little weird spatial thing, so we'll change the keyframe settings again. I just realized that you can't see what I was changing. So, just for clarification, I go down to this keyframe, I select right-click it, and then you go to Keyframe Interpolation. Right here, this is what it said. I just changed it to linear. So, as long as these both say linear, they should just move in a straight line. So, that fixes that little wiggle issue. Save it, put myself back in. I'll just hang around right there. That's okay. Alright, so now we've got all the billboards tracked, and now they're just little tiny masks on top of this picture here. So when we play it, they should all be stabilized and isolated and just be moving on their own over the still image. And this this billboard here should be cycling. All the other ones, do the other ones cycle too? Was that a happy little accident? It looks like they do. Just making sure everything looks perfect because I'm obsessed with that. This bottom billboard is bothering me. When it loops, it like shifts itself a little bit to the right. Yeah, I think that's what I did, so. Oops. Alright, I should change this. Alright, guess that works. Just a little tweaking, make sure it looks good. Okay, one last playthrough. That looks like a pretty good looping wallpaper. So yeah, you can export that. I'll just go through that as well. Go to File, go to Export, and I use the render queue most often, the encoder for Adobe stuff, which is a little bit easier to use and figure out than the After Effects one. So this should take just a second. Alright. Should pop up in the queue. Yep, alright, there it is. So we'll just match the source with a high bitrate, choose where we want to export it. We'll name it this, make sure it's in the right folder. Save it as MP4, which is a pretty standard. And then we'll just hit export, and it'll do all the work. Start the render here. It's not a very long video, so it doesn't take super long. And then, it's done. You can clear out your queue, and then you can just hit export. And then it'll do all the work. Start the render here. It's not a very long video, so it doesn't take super long. And then, it's done. You can clear out your queue, and then you can just hit export. And then Go back here. Yeah, let's confirm that we got it. Alright, here's the export. We'll just pull it up. We'll set it to repeat. And yeah, look at that. We got ourselves a little looping cyberpunk city background. That probably took longer than it should have. I was figuring out the first little effect, but yep, that's how you play with masks and move things around. It's a useful skill. So hope you learned something, and I don't know, maybe I'll do another tutorial soon. See ya.